All right, GM, folks. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I'm Rachel Wilkins. This is the Superchain Spotlight Show, and we have a special show for you today because we have Binji in the house again. Welcome, Binji.
Hello, everybody. Always great to be here.
It's so good to see you, and I'm so glad we were able to pin you down for a minute because there's been so much happening. On-chain Summer's kind of coming to a close, but right on its heels, we have the Sunnies. So for anybody who's like, what the heck are the Sunnies? What's the Superchain? Why should I be interested? This is like, let's give them the deets. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So the Sunnies is a Superchain award show. It's a celebration of all the things that have been happening on the Superchain across a range of different individuals, businesses, and everything in between. It's a way for us to celebrate. I think there's so much that happens in the space. Like, as you know, I woke up at like 7 a.m. today, and I feel like I've lived 3 lives since. There's a lot going on. So how do we actually have this like celebratory moment? We can all take a pause, be like, okay, what has happened so far, and have like a beautiful recap of what's happened in the crypto world over the past year, and what brought us here to this awesome moment that I think we're at the cusp of something truly, truly wonderful. And I know that gets said a lot, but this time it truly feels like we have all the moving pieces and all the energy and all the right people from various different parts of the crypto world itself coming together, all realizing this broader vision that we all have. A lot of work to do, but the Sunnies is going to be a celebration of the work that's been done already so far.
So talk to us a little bit about kind of the migration from talking about OP as the Optimism Collective, Optimism Labs, the OP stack, into now really this all-encompassing language that we're seeing, the Superchain, talking not just about folks building in silos and building independent L2s on top of Ethereum, but all being part of this inclusive ecosystem. Like, what does that mean to you?
Personally, what it means to me is the same thing that got me initially interested in crypto. I think I've said it on the show before, but like part of why I personally got into this space was because of the idea of incentives. I read this article called Meditation on Moloch, and it didn't talk about crypto at all. It basically talked about how the world runs by incentives. That leads you to the idea that like the biggest incentive is money. Now, how do you program money? That's Ethereum and that kind of smart contracts, and that leads you to a very interesting world. And then like diving into that, you look at like Bitcoin and things when those white papers first got released. It was a lot of like community-led effort and like a bunch of people who found interest and like were drawn towards this thing, and they were able to collaborate on it from day one. I think there's a lot of beauty there. I think it's unique to crypto, and I think it's beautiful to see something like the Superchain emerge, which allows for that to happen at mass scale across a range of different types of range of different parts of crypto.
So a lot of folks that might be joining us right now are either watching on the Timepieces account or they're watching on the Rug Radio account. Perhaps first timers even learning about what the Superchain is. So, first of all, giving somebody kind of like a TLDR of how they could perhaps, whether they're a builder or non-technical builder or creator, how they could go about participating in the Sunnies and also in the Superchain more broadly. Let's do like a TLDR.
Yeah. Let's see. So the Superchain is like a coordination mechanism through which various different people, creators, businesses can almost like build on top of some form of like a new intranet that allows for full ownership and full value distribution all across the world. That is effectively like a one TLDR of the Superchain. The tagline you could kind of associate with that is, how do you create an internet that's used by everyone but owned by no one, so it cannot be shut down, your work cannot be taken away from you, your views and your world cannot be taken away from you. If you imagine the internet just growing, which I believe it will, more of our identities getting on there, how do we ensure that our identity is not taken from us? All of these things get important. How do we ensure your assets are not taken from you? How do you ensure that like you have immutability, you have your freedom in this increasingly digital sphere? That's kind of what the Superchain powers. Almost like very simple terms, like is a way to build a user-focused internet that doesn't really extract as much as it gives back. The Superchain is technically like this consortium of different blockchain networks that are building using a shared stack called the OP stack, so the same framework, in order to kind of scale their own chains. However, all of these are interconnected within a Superchain through which like shared endeavors can emerge, like the Sunnies, for example. What the Superchain does is also like in line with this broader vision that the Optimism Collective has on how can you create a more sustainable kind of economy for people that build atop this internet? You'll see in the world today, like we live under kind of broken structures where a lot of profits are like segregated towards one part of the world or one activity of the world. But the world is bigger than just that, right? The world is full of its art. The world is full of the public goods, the people that maintain them, the people that create good things for it. The people that when I walk outside of my door, like when I see something nice, what makes a place livable, what makes a city livable, these are all like public goods that are grossly underfunded. So the Superchain as an economic mechanism almost allows for that to receive retroactive rewards for having built like the broader community and economy up. So it creates a more just, hopefully it creates a more just and open society through which builders can be rewarded proportional to their impact versus just their profit. We can live in a world where we constantly just reward and up-level people who make a lot of money, or we could live in a world where we up-level and reward people who make a lot of impact, and that's not always the same thing. So that's part of the vision and the promise of the Superchain broadly. It's very, very exciting to be a part of. And the beauty of this and the beauty of crypto is it's an open vision. It's not like something that one person is telling you, hey, this is join this. Like it is you get to build it. I like to say that you're not just building on the Superchain, you're building the Superchain itself. And it's open to a host of contributors, from artists to developers to users to anyone who wants to come and make an impact here.
Such a salient point that, you know, this idea of like rewarding impact as opposed to just rewarding, you know, those who are bringing in dollars. Like, and I think for those that have had any touch point with Optimism as a collective in the last couple of months or the last few years, that is usually what stands out. Like, is this idea that we've heard of creators being rewarded through like retro PGF funds. And the reason it sticks out so much is because it hasn't been the case. Like creators have not been rewarded. Now we're seeing, you know, funds going into governance and rewards going towards developers and builders and just a lot of activity really thinking long-term about how we build something that's sustainable and accessible for all. But we're going to talk about the Sunnies because that's what's right around the corner. We've seen award shows in kind of the Web3 ecosystem. A lot of them really just have not hit the mark. They've been more about kind of, you know, popularity contests, big personalities, etc. What I loved about what seems just very well thought out and very well there's been a lot of thought put into like intentionality about what you're doing with the Sunnies, not just the idea of rewarding financially. There's over 540 OP, but also inviting community in to be a part of the marketing efforts in a way that's felt really fun and organic. But also this idea of like encouraging community to actually name and participate in the awards themselves. So first of all, who should be signing up for the Sunnies? Let's talk about that.
Yes, if you built anything on the Superchain that has an on-chain component, you can participate. And that means if you're an artist that has launched an NFT collection, you can participate. If you are a DeFi app, you can participate. If you're in any app, you can participate. Anything that has like led to an on-chain action for an end user is eligible for this. So that'd be one part. I want to double down on like the community side. Like I think one design doctrine / principle was basically the idea that what if we build something not just for the community, but with it, right? Like I think what you mentioned about previous award shows that you may have seen in the space is that like one team were to build this thing and be like, hey, here, take it out and join us and like watch my stuff. We thought like, okay, what if, you know, things go wrong in that way? Like maybe that team misses something, or maybe it doesn't hit the mark exactly. But I think if you build from the ground up with the community itself and really listen to what people want, you can actually build an experience that everyone cherishes. So that's part of like the design philosophy of the Sunnies, but also very coincidentally, it's the same design philosophy of literally the Superchain. Like, what if we all built this thing together? What if the OP stack had multiple core developers instead of just one team? You know, like OP Labs, Base, Sunnyside. There's a bunch of different contributors. Wonderland, like, and more people are contributing to the stack every day. It leads to better outcomes for the stack itself. It'll evolve in a way in which the community actually wants versus something that's just being like top down spread to them.
What do you see, like what's kind of the most desired outcome for you with this event? And I know there's a lot of work going in behind the scenes. Like what do you hope the community comes out with on the other side?
This is going to be very cheesy, but memory, like a good memory that this has happened and it's a celebration and kind of a desire to want to do it again. I think it's like we all deserve a moment where we can reflect and look back and celebrate each other. That's definitely one. And I think if for a broader community, if I were to give one metric, it's like a memorable experience, and that's not really like as quantifiable. To dive into like quantifiable metrics specifically, it's things like how many people register, what's the excitement for that. We're making this very transferable. You register for the Sunnies, you're also getting an attestation that'll help you for retro funding, that'll help you for a variety of other stuff. You link your Farcaster account, you join this like social web, social graph. So that's also like downstream effect long term. I think another part is also how do we get like recognition for builders generally? Like I think a lot of things may operate in a silo, right? Like where it's like, okay, this DeFi world is here, this NFT world's here. We kind of had that a little bit. Like we ran We Love the Art, which 1.2 million OP went to 188 artists all around the world, the largest ever globally accessible art contest ever. The testament to the power of crypto as like a global force.
Tell us those numbers again so we can just reiterate how much.
So it was 1.2 million OP.
Wow.
For 188 artists that ended up winning. And it was the largest globally accessible art contest. There are other art contests. There are other art contests, but they're not globally accessible. And like power of crypto is it's open for everyone. And it's permissionless for everybody. So that was like one part. But a learning from that was we ran this thing, and it was mainly people in the art world of crypto that were tuned in and like were in that world. But like the DeFi folks were not in that world, right? Like, but when you run an award ceremony that's celebrating everybody, you get everyone in that world. What that could lead to is connections. So like, I would love to see like, 6 months from now, oh, I saw this artist won something in the Sunnies and they got a badge from like the Sunnies. And I'm a DeFi app, and I, as a DeFi app, I'm doing a logo rebrand, and I wanted to contract and work with an artist on that rebrand. Oh, I'm going to work with this artist, and you create this like broader community that's like, it's very interesting, and like it's something that allows for more compounding innovations, a compounding network, both in like technical and emotional and human terms, which I think is pretty powerful itself.
So you and I were both at Basecamp and FWB Fest. Got to hear from Vitalik, which was a really special moment. Jesse Pollock in conversation with Vitalik. What do you think that just something like the Sunnies, and I've seen you having some interactions with Vitalik lately. So first of all, maybe you could share a little bit on that, but also what do you think that something like the Sunnies means for the global Ethereum ecosystem?
Yes. So I think, I feel very lucky if Vitalik responds to anything. But like, I think what I'm seeing with Ethereum generally is like you see Vitalik being more active on X and stuff, and he put out a tweet talking about how well Ethereum's doing on like all the things that it's launched and all the progress that it's making. And you notice that like that dialogue's not always very public to people. How do you make it public in a very digestible way? A celebration, an award show is as good as any. It's a great way to kind of give out explanations of what is going on in this world, and also celebrate what has gone on in this world. So I think what's powerful for it is how can we create more spaces for Ethereum as a broader community to celebrate itself, to share its culture, to share its jokes, to share what it is and its identity to the rest of the world. It's interesting to see like when identity itself is a weird one, where like how do you have an identity for a decentralized neutral blockchain? Like that's not really, there's not like this is one identity. However, there are multiple identities within it, and I think this forms like an umbrella through which all of those can be housed and like distributed and like talked about and celebrated. I think that's something that allows for the culture of Ethereum to be spread more. And like I said, I would love that culture to be shared across the different like people that are contributing towards the broader Ethereum vision. What I mean by that as well is like, would love this event to be something where you get the DeFi folks and the art folks in one room. And that doesn't happen as much. We have our own unique conferences, but it doesn't happen where we're all in one spot. I think Basecamp and FWB Fest was actually beautiful because Basecamp happened. There was a lot of builders there that actually trickled into Fest, and like that led to like very, very novel connections. And I'm sure people made lifelong memories and friends and like probably partnerships as well. And I think that's just very important for crypto to keep its spirit.
So let's talk a little bit about sentiment. We've touched on the idea that we exist right now in an attention economy. It's kind of a blessing and a curse for crypto. It has been for many years since Bitcoin began. One of the things, and it's particularly important to me because this show was founded on the basis that we wanted to be something that was a counter to the negativity and the FUD that we saw around the FTX crisis. And we literally started the week of the FTX crisis to be an antidote, to be somebody that was like reporting on innovation, reporting on the amazing things that were actually happening on chain. What do you think something like the Sunnies does for sentiment, kind of long term? How is it helpful, and how does it help encourage kind of the onboarding of the masses, but also work to attract builders as well?
Yeah, that's where I want to kind of like plug our work with Forbes here. Like, it's very, very like honored to do this with an legacy institution entity like Forbes for this reason, where the Sunnies is a celebration of the Superchain. Yes, the Sunnies is a celebration of the people within the Superchain and broader Ethereum. Also, yes. Let's take the Superchain and let's take the crypto part out of it entirely. The Sunnies is like a data-driven award show of builders of the internet, which is not really a thing. I know there's the Webbies, for example, and that's very like choice participation based and like voting based, I believe. Like, crypto inherently allows for mass scale transparent data, and like the blockchain's an open resource for that data. So how can we actually like enable the emergence of these like award shows that are actually like cumulative award shows of like on-chain data and like your contributions to the internet as a whole? One thing that I like to map this to is Spotify does a really fun Spotify recap. Like, everyone loves that once a year. That's fun. But that's unique to you. Like, everyone gets their own recap. What does like an award show of a recap like that look like? Like, what does that look like for users? What does it look like for builders? I think there's so many paths that this can go through. And what the Sunnies kind of sets the tone for long term is like, and what I think all these campaigns should set the tone for long term is, how can you use blockchain technology to do things that happen in the real world, but almost at like a more accurate or even a better way. So that's obviously like optimistic, and that's pretty broad, but one of the hopes is for that. So even when I talk about like, we love the art, yes, it was a Superchain art contest, but it was also the largest ever globally accessible art contest ever. And like, that is, to me, that's very powerful as like, what is crypto's evolution into the next frontier of actually like just being a better internet, being a better place to put your work out, being a better place to be supported, being a better place to be recognized look like. And I'd like to think that as we do more of these things, it lends into the idea that we can actually create a better internet and like a future that like everyone can use, and very much like new people who've never heard of this blockchain stuff and may never even need to hear of it can take part and get value out of it. Like,
I think that's where this is kind of interesting as well for you and I to be having this conversation, because I'm somebody who is very much a non-technical builder working very much on chain, building on chain applications, whilst also working with a legacy media brand like Time. And now we have you building the Sunnies and working with a legacy brand like Forbes. Like, we're recognizing here that there is still a need for legacy media and collaboration. And there's also an opportunity for kind of a learning experience for those brands as well. So let's just talk about that. First of all, how did the partnership with Forbes come about? What does that look like for you going forward? And how important is it to kind of broaden that net and be a voice of conversation, a voice of education for these brands to kind of bring them into this ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So the partnerships came about in the same way that every other partnership for this has come about. So Gitcoin, Charmverse, Farcaster, Base, Optimism, Superchain broadly, Forbes, like all of that has come out of this energy of the idea being something that people are genuinely excited about. None of this has transpired off of like a deal making thing or something of like that we're trying to like really push for. It's literally just like, here's an idea. We're building this as a community. Anyone can join this. Like, even right now, we still have a whole month, 5 weeks plus of like a lot of Sunny related stuff. There's still a lot of opportunity. We're still getting a bunch of reach outs from people who want to come in, maybe do a skit on the live stream, maybe be a host for the live stream. There's all these like different opportunities, and we'll be doing like, we're vocalizing that a bit more, and the community will be able to see shortly. But that's kind of where it's come to. So like the full extent of it is Forbes. We've spoken to Forbes before. We wanted to do something novel here. We know that Forbes has like extensive expertise with like awards and whatnot. So we reached out, and it was a great fit. And we've kind of worked with their Web3 team and Mani, who's the VP there, who's been lovely to work with, and like just pushing this out. And there's definitely a lot more to come. So it's very, very exciting. And it's also great to see like Forbes is already doing a few things in the on-chain a little bit. And this is kind of a way for them to get fully welcomed into the Superchain, where hopefully we can call it their home.
Amazing. Yeah, and timepieces. I mean, just in terms of, being at the intersection of conversation around tech, new media, legacy media, and culture. Like these are huge brands. So I'm excited to see, where there's crossover, where there's opportunity for collaboration, because I think one of the most powerful things for any legacy brand coming into this space is to know that this is not a contest, right? This is a very collaborative, fluid environment where we can coexist together and we can be supportive and we can champion each other. So I'm excited to see kind of how that all comes together and plays out. What do you want people to know about next steps? Like, what's the best way for somebody to sign up? And also talk a little bit about rounds, because there's some exciting things happening there.
Yeah. So link to sign up is below. I see it as below. There's a www.sunnyawards.fun. You could also check out the Forbes article. If you write Forbes Optimism Sunny on Google, I'm sure it comes up first thing. That gives you a more rundown of what we're trying to do there. I think like one of the things that I do want to touch on as well is what you mentioned about like this is not a contest, and for brands and platforms generally that are entering the crypto space, I like to akin blockchains to the Superchain to like the printing press or like the internet. When the printing press came out, like different newspapers and different brands weren't like, there's only one person that can use paper to do this. Like it's like a shared resource. And I think especially the internet as well, it's like, okay, there's not just one internet company, there's like multiple internet companies, and now they're just called companies. With the blockchain, it's like all of that, but on like super powered, because the innovation from one side can carry over to all of the other sides. We can actually compound and work together in a way that's not value extractive, in a way that can like be celebratory and helpful to everyone involved. So that's something that like I'm very excited about to see, like hoping to see more of as more and more brands and legacy media enter the space, and like what we can do there. I think it's very, very exciting. Rounds. So the Sunnies will be doing some rounds. We've done rounds on Farcaster before. Especially if you go to Farcaster, please sign up for it. It's a lovely platform, especially as like all of the things going on in the world today when it comes to free speech and when it comes to like decentralized social. Farcaster is definitely one of the leads within that world. So one thing that we're going to be trying to do is effectively figure out how we can utilize rounds as a platform on the Superchain channel to get community contributors to help grow and help build the Sunnies alongside us. So if you're signing up, please do hop in that channel, share that you've signed up, and we'll have rounds that are like seeking out ideas and names and fun things as we go along. And you can keep up to date with that on Farcaster.
Amazing. Just for fun, favorite top 3 categories for the Sunnies?
Oh,
or award names, if you have them yet.
So I can't reveal the award names yet. I think some of the things will definitely be like user counts. I think that's something that's pretty interesting. Like how many users are you bringing in to what you built? Whether you're an artist or whether you're a DeFi app, that's something that's pretty exciting. There's always these like ideas of like transactions and whatnot, but like how many like people are you actually bringing on chain through what you're building? I think that there's an exciting factor there. I'm really, really excited to share some of those things out. There'll also be like growth awards. So don't have hesitation if you're like, oh, I'm a DeFi app, but I'm not like the #1 TVL app, so I'm not going to win an award. That's not true. Like the awards will be pretty broad across various different categories. It could be something like fastest growing NFT artist, artist with the most unique minters, artist with the most mints. Like there's going to be an array of them. And even if you don't win an award, you're still getting a lot of different perks, which we'll be sharing shortly as well as the weeks go on.
Well, very exciting. We are going to be watching. We're going to be participating. The Good News Show is going to be there and hopefully covering some of the fun over the next couple of weeks. So Binji, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you as always.
And folks, make sure you check out the Sunnies. Be careful with any links below this video. Make sure it is the correct link. The Sunnies will not email you either, so watch out. Obviously, always DYOR. Make sure you're clicking those official links. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.